What's all over the place and just getting worse? Buildings? Welcome, or welcome back to Monkey Boys Toys. I trust most of you are familiar with the sofa. Thanks very much for joining me again. Here's a cushion to look at. Now this week I bring you something of a cautionary tale. So I've been collecting for a long time now, and it's not often I make a mistake with a purchase, but last month I made a textbook schoolboy error with my eBay purchase of some TMNT figures. Now on that day my spidey sense failed me, and I failed myself by not adhering to basic common sense practices. So what did I do, and what should I have done? Now let's remove the cushion and explore my stupidity. Okay, so last month I stumbled upon an eBay listing for a complete set of 6-inch TMNT figures for the obviously too good to be true price of £39.99 Great British Pounds. Now this should have rung alarm bells immediately, but my excitement at the price overtook my common sense and I clicked on the listing. I then ignored the red flag of there being only one photo, this one, and I incorrectly identified these as being the 6-inch fully articulated TMNT figures from Playmates, released in 2012 maybe. And such was my excitement, I did not zoom in on the image, and I gave only a cursory examination of the item description. Now the likelihood that these were bootleg or knockoff items did not occur to me, and I failed to carry out the minimum of research into these figures. Now to be fair, I did receive the items as pictured in the listing. However, before we look at those in hand, let's look at some images of the genuine Playmates figures. So here's the full set. They look very similar, don't they? Let's put our spectacles on and take a closer look. Okay, so here's a couple more images which will help us hunt for details. What can we see? Well, this appears to be a shoulder construction featuring a rotation and a hingy thing. No butterfly joint visible, but certainly two planes of movement can be seen. Moving down the arm a bit, we can see what appears to be a bicep cut, indicating a peg rotation there. And down again to double hinged elbows, hidden under the elbow pads somewhat. Moving on to the hands, we can see what looks to be evidence of finger or hand articulation, and very likely a thumb joint as well. Looking at the torso, we can see what is presumably a ball joint at the diaphragm. It's not clear if there's a waist swivel under the belt. Moving down, we can see double hinged knees, again somewhat hidden under the pads. And looking at the ankle, it does suggest there's a hinge, a swivel and a rocker, and the feet certainly have toe flapping capabilities. So let's now look at the eBay listing photo more closely, something I should have done to begin with. Firstly, we see no evidence of a shoulder hinge or a bicep cut. We do see some horrible flashing. The elbows look okay, but the hand sculpt is pretty untidy and the seams look fairly soft. There's no indication of any movement there. Looking at the feet, but there's clearly no articulation in the toes. Now the listing did say that this was a complete but loose set, so I assumed that someone was just selling the set as such, and that the figures would be in self-seal baggies, bubble wrap or something similar. However, when I received the parcel, it was immediately apparent that something wasn't right, because the figures were in a large heat-sealed polythene or whatever bag, and each figure inside was also in its own heat-sealed bag. Now this is obviously not typical for personal sales, and is very much the way bootleg and knockoff figures leave the sketchy factories. So as you can see, I ripped open the outer bag and like this removed the 4 bags inside, and I selected Donnie for inspection. As you can see, I've also ripped this bag up. So the first thing I pulled out of the pack was the figure stand. Now I immediately noticed that it was a bit warped, as you can see, and then when looking at the actual figure stand, I immediately noticed this part here, which appears to be where the mold has not, so it doesn't quite look right. I thought perhaps maybe this was some sort of a quality control issue, but anyway, that was not a great start. So there's the figure stand. The plastic isn't very soft, but certainly that warping isn't a great sign. The next thing I pulled out of the bag was Donnie's bow staff. Now look at the state of that bloody thing. This is made of a very soft vinyl type material. It is incredibly soft, so much so that I don't think this would perhaps cooperate very well with the old hot water treatment. I will give it a try, but this is incredibly soft. Often action figure accessories are a little softer than the main figure themselves, but this is, I mean, this is absurdly soft. So at this point, I think I realised that I'd been shafted. Anyway, I removed the figure. Here is the figure. Sorry for the poor lighting, by the way. I've done the best I can today, but it's not great. Anyway, the first thing I did was look at the bottom of the feet, and I noticed that there was no manufacturer information, no date, nothing like that. So basically, knockoff or bootleg confirmed. Now there is some evidence here. You can see where whoever took the mould of the original figures has scratched off the information that should have been there. You can sort of vaguely see some suggestion of writing having been there at one point. Quite why they scratched it off, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to bootleg a figure, just bootleg the figure. Anyway, we've got left and right on the toes, which is useful, so they know which fake foot to put on which fake leg. Anyway, so yes, knockoff or bootleg certainly confirmed in this case. Incidentally, I'm not sure if these are actually considered knockoff or bootleg. I mean, there seems to be some conflicting opinions on the specifics of each term. I can tell you that these appear to be moulded from the genuine Playmates versions, so perhaps you could let me know what term I should use, although fake certainly seems to fit. Anyway, let's have a look at what else is wrong with this figure. It's not that easy to see given the poor lighting that I've got, but the finish on the figure isn't amazing. It's slightly rough. If you can see on the front of his nose there, it's not as smooth as it ought to be. Some areas seem almost like a matte finish, and other areas seem slightly glossy. I mean, overall it is quite glossy, but it's just not the type of finish you would expect from a genuine figure. There's some pitting and such there where the mould has not been perfect, and there's been some sort of inconsistencies and imperfections in the mould. I mean, it looks okay from here, but as you look up close, it does seem a bit rough. So there's that. We'll look at the articulation in a moment. There's several areas on the figure, like here, where you can see there's some horrendous flashing. And look there on the side of his body, if I can get an angle there that looks. I mean, look at this flashing. It's quite unsightly. Obviously, the mould that was used wasn't airtight in those areas, and so yeah, there's lots of flashing on the figure. We've got another quite extreme part there on his gusset. And various other areas on the backs of the joints here. We've got flashing. Just overall, it looks a little bit untidy, or quite considerably untidy. So yeah, there's that. Looking at the articulation, as I say, these don't have any shoulder hinges here. I would have expected there to be a shoulder hinge just on the top here, so that the arms could be sort of hinged out in this direction, but that is not the case. I won't do it any more than that in case I break the thing. Obviously, we do have a rotation in the arm there. That's still present, but that's all we have. There's no bicep cut, as you can see, so the biceps do not swivel here. There are double hinged elbows, it would appear. They're quite soft, but there we go. There is a rotation in the wrist and a hinge in the wrist, it would appear. Let's have a look. Is there a hinge? Somewhat, but they're a bit flimsy and they're not great. The joints themselves feel quite sort of soft. There is the diaphragm movement there that we see. That seems to be on a ball joint, so that's okay. Let's look at the hands themselves here. As we can see, these were just moulded from the original Playmates figures that did have articulated hands, and you can see here the sort of seam lines and such where the articulation should have been. In fact, if you look at the thumb, just here, you can see there is some suggestion of where a hinge was on the original figure, but this of course has not been translated into this version, so we just end up with some very untidy looking hands. At a distance, you could be forgiven for thinking there's articulation there, but of course we can see there is none. Moving down to the legs, we've got some very soft knee pins here, knee pegs. Again, we can see that flashing on the back of the knee. I'm not sure, is there an ankle rocker? Oh yes, there is something of an ankle rocker there. It doesn't work particularly well, but I think there is a front-facing pin inside the construction of the foot there. But we can see there is no articulation in the toes. We don't have any pins indicating that. We can see it's all one solid mold. Now, when I bought this set, I was really looking for the articulation in particular. That was really what I was after. So I could get some nice dynamic poses. I'm obviously not going to be able to achieve that with these figures, because they're lacking some of the crucial articulation points in the shoulders and the bicep. So yeah, that's not ideal. Also, if we straighten the figure's legs out as best we can, I don't know if you can see this from the picture very well, but the tolerances on the knees are incredibly loose. So you can see that the legs just sort of bow forwards like this, which is not ideal. Whether the original or the official figures do that or not, I don't know. But anyway, so let's try and straighten him out and stand him upon the included figure stand, and we'll see what he does. Are they going to be posable in any way? They don't fit brilliantly on here. I suppose they are quite tight fits anyway. It's not brilliant. I suppose if I posed him correctly, I would be able to get him to stand upright. But as you can see, this is a very floppy thing, and he's got Velociraptor feet. So yeah, this is not ideal at all. There we go. Very loosey goosey figure. Quite floppy. Something of a disappointment. I mean, from a distance, I guess they just about get away with it, but up close they are, well, almost dog shit. So let's get them all lined up at the back in some sort of fashion, and then we'll crack on. Give me a second. Even as I'm trying to set these up, I mean, it's quite funny really. The hip construction and the hip articulation is absolutely awful. And let me just straighten these feet out. Mikey's feet legs aren't even the same length, so he's got one leg shorter than the other, so that's cool. Mikey's going to be running around in circles. Look, I mean, look, they are literally bloody awful. Anyway, I might as well just open these other ones. Let's discover some things together. Okay, is this? Yeah, again, we've got that fault on the stand. This one is slightly less warped, but yeah, again, that's not great. Very soft plastic again on the weapons. I think we'll just leave him like that, shall we? Terrible construction in the hip there. Yeah, bloody awful. There we go. That's nice. I think that just about sums it up, really, doesn't it? There we go. Let's just stand in there like that. At this point, really, who gives a shit? Let's put his weapons in his belt, at least where they go. There we are. Brilliant. Okay, there's Raph. Looking rather twisted. And let's just have a look at Leo while we're here. Here's Leo. Yep, again, a problem with the stand. And let's look at his swords. Oh, look at those. Way! Brilliant. I mean, if they were any softer, I think they'd probably made out of cloth or possibly even a liquid. So that's great, isn't it? Let's pop those in his sword sheaths at the back. Oh, I can't even get them in there. They're so soft. It's difficult to get them in. Oh, there we go. Oh, fuck it. I'll do that one later. Anyway, there you go. There's Leo looking excellent. Well, these are shit. Let's just spin the camera across just a little bit to frame those properly. Again, I'm sorry about the poor lighting. I just don't seem to be able to win at the moment with the nature of daylight that's coming through the window. I do have 1, 2, 3 other lights here, but it's all a pain in the tits, to be quite honest. So there we go. Now, I'm sure most of us know the correct protocols to follow when buying things from auction sites or social media group pages, but if you're new to collecting, it can be easy to get caught out. So, for example, the first time it happened to me, I was none the wiser. The second time I was suspicious, but I took a gamble. And on this occasion, of course, I did not apply the minimum amount of common sense. So here are some tips, but the list is not exhaustive. Number 1, study photos carefully. Where possible, compare with official photos or those from reliable sources. Be cautious if listings only feature stock images. It's not necessarily a red flag if you're buying from a retailer, but personal sales from random individuals should ideally have actual photographs in hand. Tip number 2, read item descriptions carefully. Do they appear natural, or are they cut and paste publicity blurbs? Again, not necessarily a red flag, but it's worth paying attention to. The description should also state any damage, any missing parts, and other relevant details that may not be mentioned in the main heading. Number 3, if in doubt, ask. The seller should be able to provide additional photos and information upon request. If you're suspicious whether or not the seller actually has the item, do ask for photos showing the item alongside a handwritten note with the person's name and date. Tip number 4, determine the location of the item. Is it coming locally? Is it domestic or international? Beware cheap items from China. These often use stock images of genuine items but are sometimes counterfeit. Again, not necessarily, but I'd say your chances are probably 50-50. I mean, that's just my opinion, but your experience may vary. Number 5, look at seller feedback ratings. What are other buyers saying about their experience? It's worth checking those out. You might see some red flags in there, so it's worth paying attention to the feedback ratings. Number 6, check additional details. Now, this could be things like, is the item going to be sent as a tracked delivery? Is it covered by a money-back guarantee? Are you paying upfront or when the item is received? And does the seller accept returns? These are all things to bear in mind when making your decision. And finally, number 7, if it looks too good to be true, well, you might want to go over steps 1 to 6 again. Don't do what I did, and indeed, try to do what I did not. So good luck, and happy collecting.
I'm not a horse, I'm a pony.
And here we are at the arse end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you found it interesting, entertaining, or helpful, please look at this demented koala and drop me a cheeky thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already joined the Monkey family, and leave me a comment about something. Maybe tell me if these are bootlegs or knockoffs. Anyway, hope to see you next time, but now I'm going to make like a shepherd and get the flock out of here. Bye bye! Bye! Love you! No, you hang up first. No, you first. Okay, bye!
Meep meep.